P2B calls out the hypocrisy of ECOWAS. He compared the way they reacted to the coup in Guinea-Bissau to the way they reacted to the coup in Nigeria when it happened. Not really a coup, the judicial coup that happened in 2023 and the electoral heist. Writing on his verified X handle, he said, reflecting on the coup glitches in Guinea-Bissau, on Thursday, November 27th, I arrived in Abuja early in the morning after attending a productive meeting at the European Parliament. To my distress, I learned that our former president, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, was caught up in the reported coup situation in Guinea-Bissau. I immediately reached out to him and he assured me that he was safe. I was further revealed to hear that he had returned safely to Nigeria. I listened carefully to his press briefing about the incident. Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who was in Guinea-Bissau as an election monitor, noted that the so-called coup appeared suspicious, especially because it was the president himself who announced the coup and shared details with the international community. What makes the situation even more striking is that the election was reportedly peaceful, with the only remaining step being the formal announcement of the results. It is safe to say that while Nigeria's own election was marred by a technical glitch, the election in Guinea-Bissau seems to have suffered from a coup glitch. Yet, to this day, no one has clearly explained the nature of Nigeria's glitch. ECOWAS was quick to sanction Guinea-Bissau, but what does ECOWAS do when democracy is subverted not by soldiers, but by technology? What is the punishment for countries that announce glitches at critical moments during an election? Do we only condemn coups that are visible with guns and ignore those carried out through a designed technical failure? By addressing these issues constructively, we can work towards a new Nigeria and a more stable and democratic West Africa. Together, we can ensure that the will of the people prevails and that our elections reflect the true desires of our citizens. The Guinea-Bissau scenarios represent two faces of the same crisis. One, which ballots are discarded by force, and another where ballots are obstructed by convenient technical issues. In both cases, the people suffer, democracy is undermined, and the region sinks deeper into instability. The outcome remains the same. The citizens are denied their mandate. True democracy can only thrive when transparency and accountability prevail, and when the voice of the people is respected, not interrupted by glitches or coups. P2B is spot on. These political organizations, including ECOWAS, AU, even the European Union, they are of no use to the people of Africa. They seem to like flowing with the status quo. They are establishment political organizations. You always see them charging, crying and condemning when it's a military coup. You know why they do that? It's simply because these military boys don't listen to anyone. They do what they like. They are not like political puppets that are puppets to foreigners. They do whatever these foreigners want them to do because their hands are tied. Not really tied in the real sense. It's because they are corrupt. All the money they steal from African countries, they launder them abroad. So these people have their secrets. So that's why they pull the plugs behind the scenes. That's why these puppets that call themselves leaders will do anything. They only care about their own interest and the interest of foreigners rather than the interest of the countries they govern. So you can see the fact that these political organizations defend flawed elections, defend stolen elections. For example, look at what happened in Tanzania. The lady president literally contested that election alone as the sole candidate. And AU immediately congratulated her, despite the fact that they know that the election was seriously flawed. Today, the woman has appointed her entire family into the cabinet. Imagine that, as if the country belongs to her, as if it has become a personal estate. So what they are doing actually undermines democracy. It makes more people to lose faith in democracy. If you say you're protecting democracy, why not ensure that players in the democracy actually follow the rules? If they don't follow the rules, you have to come out and condemn them the way they are condemning these coup plotters, the way they condemn military boys. Yes. How can you claim that you support democracy, you want to make sure democracy endures, but they never condemn anything? Just because the type of government is a democracy, they don't want to make sure that, hey, these people must follow the rules. People in power behave as if the rules are meant for opposition. We are in power, we make the laws, We have the executive power, we have the judicial power. Whatever we want becomes law. So they can't follow the rules. And whenever the opposition raises their voice against anything they are doing, they are hounded, intimidated, even imprisoned for no reason. So it is double standards for them to always criticize military coups, but become deaf and blind when so-called Democrats steal elections. Yes, when someone that calls himself a civilian president will undermine the opposition and make himself the sole candidate for an election. How is that competitive? It's no longer a competitive democracy. It has now become a dictatorship where one candidate contests an election that is supposed to be contested by everyone. But one candidate will contest that election and shout at the world, I won the election. And these political organizations will quickly jump and congratulate the person just because they want to convince Africans that they want democracy to endure. What people must understand is, no matter what you call that type of government you run, whether it's a democracy, socialism, communism, even military dictatorship, whatever you call it, if the operators don't follow the rules, it is bound to fail. It's as simple as that. Also, people should stop saying, democracy is not meant for Africa, this, that. Democracy, whatever you call that type of government, the only reason it can survive and work and continue to work for hundreds of years is if the operators follow the rules. Everything has procedure. Even in your company, in your family, you as the head, you know that there are rules. Your kids know the rules, know how things are done. Once they go astray, they are looking for your trouble. So as every other thing that one does in life, if they say we're in a democracy and all the arms of government are supposed to be independent of each other, they should handle their own budgets, they should conduct their affairs in a very transparent and fair manner, then all of a sudden one man gets to power and somehow the three arms that are supposed to be independent suddenly start singing his praises. The other day, judges were singing Tinubu's anthem. Can you imagine that? It's no longer news that National Assembly members always sing that anthem. So it doesn't make any sense. You are supposed to be independent, but you are now proving to Nigerians that you are one under one man, that all of you respect and are loyal to one person instead of being loyal to the Nigerian constitution, instead of being loyal to Nigerian people who put you there, whether they rig the election or not. They are there representing Nigerians, whether you like it or not. That's the reality. That's why people must understand that if you fail to stop them from winning the way they win the election, stealing that election and being in power, if you fail to stop them, you are enabling them. You are accepting that, they stole it and they can still keep that stolen property. Yes, that's what it means. So if these political organizations don't stop their double standards, more and more people will continue to lose faith in the so-called democracy. The way Africans saw democracy back in the 80s and 70s is quite different from the way they see it today, because a lot has happened. They have seen that the so-called Democrats under civilian governments do whatever they like, and no foreign power, no country that calls themselves allies of African countries, they don't utter a word. They accept it. They never condemn it. In fact, most of them are allies of these sit-tight rulers in Africa. Yes, how can one man be in power for over 40 years? Take Paul Biya of Cameroon, for instance. Most young generation Cameroonians, all the people that are at least less than 40 years, most of them have seen him as their president since they were born. The man can't even walk on his own without being aided, but he is still contesting. He will continue to contest until he dies in power. That's the reality. So they must make sure to always lend their voice, even if it's for optics, so that people will see, true, that you people are champions of democracy. What can't happen in your country? Why do you tolerate it in Africa? That same standard that is available in Europe, you should support that standard in Africa. Yes, that's a reality. If you support a different standard in your country and turn a blind eye to the standard that corrupt politicians have established in Africa, then you're a hypocrite. Yes, you're only an ally to the African country to protect your interests. Maybe you're interested in some natural resources, you don't want to hurt the relationship, so you pretend as if nothing is happening. You pretend as if, Paul Biya has stayed in power for several decades, he should continue staying. But in your own country, no one is allowed to amend the constitution to extend his stay in power. The tenure is always fixed. If it's 2 terms, the person wins a second term. The law prevents that person to contest in perpetuity like they do in Africa. Look at Ivory Coast. When Alassane Ouattara came to power, he came to power after a short civil war with the then president Laurent Gbagbo. He was seen as a humble person who would just serve his term and leave. But here we are, he has been contesting ever since then. Is this not his fourth term in office? So these are the issues. These foreign countries always want to get righteous on Africans. Democracy started in our countries for many hundreds of years ago. It's been thriving ever since. You should try to make it thrive in your own countries. Yes, it should work here if they follow the rules. But the reason it doesn't work is simply because they don't follow the rules and you support them. These foreign powers support them because they are their puppets. Without puppets in power, they won't have access to whatever they gain from the country. It's a simple thing to understand. So it is left for Africans themselves to make sure they make their country work. Whatever the type of government, whether it is military, whether it is democracy, whatever you call it, make sure it works for you. The most important thing is for the government to work for you. If it is military government that is working for you, yes, hold that very tight, because when you change that, everything might fall apart. In Nigeria, for instance, it's not as if in Nigeria we've had luck with military regimes, but at least when you compare infrastructure that was built under the military, compare that to what was built under democracy, under civilians, you will see that the military men actually did better than the civilians. Which means that under military regimes, there seems to be less corruption, so to speak. Yes, compared to civilian regimes. Look at the enormous salaries of federal lawmakers. At least you don't have that under military regimes. They don't have lawmakers. There is no legislature. So all these point to one thing. Nigerians and other Africans don't seem to benefit better under civilian regimes. That's the reality. Not that it doesn't work in some countries, it does. But here especially, it doesn't work. Nigerians don't get their money's worth. Yes, the money that is spent on governance in Nigeria is so massive that at the end of the day, what remains to be used to deliver the service to Nigerians becomes very small, that at the end of the day, you cannot see the effect. An investment that requires $1 billion, for instance, after all the corruption, they use Biro to write off every amount. What might remain might not be up to $10 million. At the end of the day, that project that requires $1 billion to execute, you can't do anything on that project with $10 million. So these are the issues. Unlike in some military regimes where they will commit an amount to a project and they will make sure that project is actualized. Once they vote that money, they will make sure it is actualized. In civilian regimes, they might vote that money, but the project will be abandoned. And that's the end. You will not know anything that happened to that money, the main capital. Even if another government comes, they might decide to abandon all the projects that his predecessor built or started. He will start his own just to have that glory. I started this, I built this, I commissioned this. And at the end of the day, you see that Nigerians are not getting their money's worth. Do you know the number of abandoned properties in this country? That's under the federal government alone. We have thousands of abandoned projects. No one is talking about anything. Look at Tinubu. Tinubu came in, he could not even patch or repair existing federal highways. He started his own. So these are the issues. Any government you are operating in any African country and you see that they are serving the citizens better, hold that very tight, because once you take that leap into the so-called whatever, give it any name you like, you might see that that new government might start taking you back to Egypt. Thanks for watching.